Aloha, malolele, and talofa. Welcome back to the Aloha EQ or Emotional Intelligence podcast, the place where emotional intelligence meets island wisdom.
Jacob Tupou Kongaika. We are very pleased to have you join this EQ podcast. And we're going to ask you, would you please introduce yourself to the listeners? Tell them about who you are a little bit.
Sure thing. I'm your grandson. As you said, my name, Jacob Tupou Kongaika. You might see my name on online as JTFisher some places. I'm currently a student at BYU studying chemical engineering. I like to research Polynesian mythology, which I'm sure we'll talk about. I like to do some art and writing. Also play video games and stuff. That's fun. But yeah, that's mostly me.
What first sparked your interest in Tongan language and culture, especially growing up outside of Tonga?
Well, I think I've always just been generally interested in it. I just didn't really start looking into it until, as I said, I play some video games, and it was after playing a really good video game with a really good story that inspired me, like, why can't we have stories like this for Polynesian culture? It was because I kept pestering my dad, like, what's the god of this, what's the god of that? And he didn't have answers, so I just started looking online and found some good sources.
You haven't been there, so it helps when you go and do the research yourself. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us some of the sources you have looked at?
Mm-hmm. One of the best sources I've found, because it's kind of dense, because it's an academic work. It's a thesis by Okusitino Mahina.
Mahina, yeah.
He wrote a long thesis about Talae Fonua, which basically just means indigenous Tongan stories. And so it's a really long work, and he's got a whole bunch of cited sources at the end.
Yeah.
So even if you can't handle the academic writing, it's all you can go to the back of the thesis and find a whole bunch of like compilations of stuff. And so that's helped me a lot in gathering sources. I put a lot of sources into a Google Doc and trying to read through them all pretty slowly while I'm trying to get through school.
Yeah, I see you enjoying it. You helped develop a Tongan dictionary. How did that come about, and what was the experience like for you?
I think it was mostly my dad's idea, and he just had me help him out, try and get some kind of copywriting and work experience under him. So he just gave me the church word Tongan dictionary. It had English to Tongan, Tongan to English, and and a lot of the words just weren't all that useful, and he wanted a simplified version was the idea, so that we could like make it generally available for people to take to Tonga or just to learn useful Tongan words. And so my job was to just go through the dictionary and try and figure out which words were useful.
Would be useful, huh?
Mm-hmm. And just kind of break it down. I wasn't learning Tongan at that point. I am now, so I know a little bit more. But it was fun just being exposed to the language like that.
You probably were able to have a little bit of vocabulary developing at the time, huh?
Yeah.
And you begin to ask questions. I remember you asking me some questions about certain words. And so it's very helpful when you are going through these things, huh?
Yeah.
You go by the name of JTFisher, inspired by your ancestors, Kongaika. What does that name mean to you, personally?
The Fisher part comes from Kongaika, meaning part fish, because I think my great, I think it's 3 greats back.
Yeah.
Sione Aholale, he changed his name to Kongaika because he was such a good person at sea. I don't know if he was a great fisher, but he was a great sailor, at least.
He was. He was a good fisherman as well.
Mm-hmm.
As a skipper.
The first part, JT, of course, is just Jacob Tupou, my name. I was trying to come up with a pen name for while I was writing. I didn't think my name had a good flow to it. Yeah, it's easier for people to spell and pronounce and remember.
Yeah.
But I came up with JTFisher with my family at Outback Steakhouse. It was fun. And the Fisher is also a nickname my dad went by on his mission. It was I think it was when he played basketball with the other missionaries. It was a basketball player's name, but now it's just another.
Then they call him Fisher.
Yeah.
Elder Fisher, huh? It's easier for them to call him that.
Yeah.
So it's easy also to identify with your dad, identify with your ancestors' name. Do you feel like language is a bridge to your identity? Or how has learning Tongan changed the way you see yourself personally?
Mm-hmm. Learning a new language is learning a new way to see the world, I think.
Mm.
How do you break down what everything is? Like in Tongan, to say that something exists, you say "ei." In "I" is just like that. It's in that. What's that? It's everything.
Does it help you discover who you are when you're learning Tongan?
I think my study of Tongan has helped me connect to sources better, connect to the stories.
Mm.
But it's also, as just a project in learning, I've never tried to learn a language before. So it's just kind of confidence boosting to be. I think I'm pretty okay at it, I think.
Yeah, I think you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's just been a confidence boost.
You know, in far as I'm concerned, before you learned Tongan, well, I didn't think that you were interested in your culture before you learned Tongan. You know, before you started asking me questions about the culture, when you were learning the words, and in asking those questions, I see that you were interested in knowing who your heritage, where you come from, your dad's, how he grew up. I mean, that you think that may be the case in what you're saying?
Yeah. My linguistics class kind of helped me understand that any kind of translation isn't fully translated. It's not 100% perfect. So knowing how things are understood in Tongan really helps bridge that gap. Because you can see what it means in English, and then you can see what it means in Tongan. Or else, I'm not on that level really yet. But I have the tools to help me get on that level once I'm far enough into the program, learning Tongan.
That's awesome. That's really good. I don't know if you remember Eric Shumway. He says the professional Tongan linguistic, right? He knows Tongan better than most Tongan. But I remember the story that his wife told us one time. He knows when her husband prays. If he prays in Tongan, it's serious. You know, the language makes a difference in his behavior, because the language does help our identity, but it does help us to define who we are.
Mhm.
and how we feel about things.
Yeah, there's a lot of respect, I think, imbued into the Tongan language and understanding your role, who you're talking to, the words you're supposed to be using. I know people talking about language. This isn't talking about Tongan, but they were talking about Spanish. I think how they feel like they're a happier person, or they're more like their tone is happier speaking in Spanish than in English, or they're more friendly. I think, which is interesting.
I see. Yeah, that's very interesting, huh? Is there a phrase or a word, just a simple word that you feel like this is a powerful word?
It's not a powerful word that I'm thinking of, but when I think of my favorite Tongan word, I think it's fulu fulu.
Fulu fulu.
Which is, fulu means feather, right?
Yeah, feather.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it's just a fun word.
It's a fun word. Yes, it is a fun word.
In terms of powerful.
And when you say fulu fulu, because it's a repeat of the first word. Mm-hmm. It's a repetition, fulu fulu, and feather.
In terms of power, you can look at really fundamental concepts, like stuff that Tevita Kaili talks about, and Okusiti no Mahina talks about with Tava and Tava Funua and Mana. Not very many people talk about Mana in Tongan culture. It's more about Tapu in Tongan culture, the sacred and forbidden.
What's the Tongan word for sacred?
Tapu.
Tapu. Okay.
And there's also the concept of duty, of
Fatomi.
Yeah, which is, I think, pretty powerful in terms of understanding the culture.
Yeah.
Everybody has a fotongia to play. And from my study of Mana, even though it's not really emphasized, it's the power to perform your fotongia.
Yeah.
It's
it is
an active force. It's a moving force.
Yeah. Those are good words. Mana, Fatonia,
Tava.
Huh?
Yeah, the hit in the void, the space between.
Yeah. That's a big thing in Tonga. You keep the relationship going. You know, that's the Tava. You have to keep your relationship with whomever. Va is your relationship. Tava is your choice. And you do that by performing your fatongi, or the mana that you have. Huh? Yeah. Now, how do you feel about a culture you haven't been to that place?
Yeah. I would like to go eventually.
Yeah.
But I'm alright sitting from a distance right now.
Yeah.
I'm having fun just learning about it. It's it's not deeply rooted yet. I'm just planting. There's a coconut on the shore and it hasn't planted its roots yet, but it's thinking about it.
Yeah. That's a real Tongan outlook. A coconut to the shore. You're just
I'm not a tree yet.
You're not the other Tongan word that you probably heard is Potopoto, a new moon.
Wisdom of the coconut.
Yeah, the coconut, the young coconut, they have wisdom, but it's the wisdom of a young coconut. how has learning your family history helped shape your emotional intelligence and understanding your legacy or your mana?
Mm-hmm. Understanding the stuff that's been passed down to me, and trying to uncover some of the stuff that's been forgotten over time. It helps inform how I treat kind of the source material. Learning about family history has been fun too, because we're related to the royal line. You go back far enough, that connects us to the Tonga laws. And so that's just fun information to have. And a lot of Tongan mythology, if you break it down into not mythology, it's a lot of ancestor worship. So it's just looking at the things your ancestors have done and then saying, it's so cool that we made it a god, a powerful being. Seeing how, though I'm not dead yet, I can be a kind of god in that way. I can do powerful things for the people that people in the future will see, kind of, and think of it in a powerful way.
It might be some of the things that we also look at it. I'm looking at it backward. I'm saying, if he learned to do that, I could learn to do that too. It's some of the wonderful stories we learn from our ancestors.
They can move the heavy stone. I can do a math problem.
It's in me.
That's the concept. That's a lot of the concept of mana too. Is carrying forward your ancestors. I haven't looked into a lot of how that was passed on, but a lot of the most recent Chief of War show talked about mana in the bones, and that's a Hawaiian show, so it's not really. It might have crossover into Tonga.
And those are all Polynesian stuff. Yeah, this is true.
Yeah, just carrying the mana forward.
You said earlier, there's a lot of respect, and if you find a grave, you carefully dig out the bones and wrap it in paper cloth and relocate it someplace else without just demolition. I remember when we were building our little house for Grandpa Kongaika, we found some bones on top of when we were excavating to see, and my Grandma Luisa came with a paper cloth and asked the men, please carefully remove whatever we find as bones and stuff, and we will have to go and re-bury it. We don't know who they belong to, but the respect for that thing is there. So there's a lot of power in there, I think, that we deal with.
Yeah, there's a lot of respect around grave sites.
What role do you think the young Polynesian have in preserving and evolving the culture heritage?
I don't want to tell anyone they have to do anything they don't want to research, but I think it's just fun to learn these stories, and some of them are, not all of them are appropriate for children. Some of them are, but just tell them as like little fairy tales to your kids, kind of. That's what a lot of old Nordic stories like Thor. A lot of our sources are from post-Christian. I think Greenland, where they were just telling these stories of Thor and Odin and big old snakes and wolves, just as stories to tell their kids to have fun. So I think, in terms of evolution part, it's have fun with the stories. Art. There's not a lot of Tongan art of Tongan gods. I think there's a lot of Maori art of Maori gods. I think there's a big cultural renaissance in Polynesia, a little bit, and I'd love to see that expand into Tonga. I was listening to a podcast by someone who does work in Tonga. I think his name's Ngau Homea Whakatokotea. I think I might have mispronounced his name or gotten it wrong. But he has a podcast, I think Tongan Legends podcast. But he was on a different podcast and he was talking about how there's a problem with suicide in Polynesia or in Tonga. And so I think another role is to just live to tell the stories.
You share your culture by your stories. If your great-grandfather, or great-great-grandfather, could speak to you today, what do you think he would say about your path? What you're doing about, your interest in this, in his heritage? What would he say?
I think he'd be excited to help me learn. Maybe he has some stories to tell too.
Yeah.
Love to hear those stories. I don't know if I ever met him.
Yeah.
No,
you have not met him. You have seen some pictures, and I think I'm a product of him, and I'm happy to claim him.
From the stories I hear of him, he adopted a lot of kids with his wife, a lot of your siblings.
It's true.
He seemed like a very caring man. Maybe he beat his kids a little bit, but I think everybody did that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he seemed loving, and so I think he'd be supportive. And
Grandpa was a grandpa was a good man. Good man. And I'm not trying to put any words in your mouth. I would just say that he would be very, very proud of your path. Whatever you're trying to do, he will be right alongside you, cheering you on. Yeah, whatever you do. Yeah, so that's the kind of man he was too. So, thank you very much, JTFisher.
Thank you
for taking the time to share your feelings on this Aloha EQ podcast as we talk about your path and what you're doing as far as learning your identity and language. And do you have any final words to say to the listeners before we? How about a little bit about your recent trip to Hawaii? What did you learn in Hawaii?
I learned that the beach is nice.
The beaches are nice.
Yeah. We didn't really get to see much cultural stuff. We went to the PCC.
You went to the Polynesian. What stands out most at the Polynesian Culture Center?
We didn't get to all the villages. It's a lot of performance. That's what a lot of Polynesia is. It's doing dances and doing whaiva, as it would be in
whaiva.
Yeah. And also the genealogy of it all, kind of. There's a lot of fun games and stuff too. I'm not too into the games. But it was fun just being around with my family while we were learning all that stuff. We also went to Waimea Valley a little bit. We didn't do the hike. But we went up there and there's a heiau. I don't know if there's an okina in there. But it was cool seeing a kind of, I think, kapu site. Yeah, a Hawaiian.
And, most of Polynesians have the same kind of thing. A heiau is a telea in Tonga. It's kind of like a grave, a sacred place where you bury your ancient people. Yeah. It's the same in Tahiti, same in Maui, same in Samoa. They all have this kind of things. Yeah.
You see all these similarities and all these.
Very similar.
The differences are there, but there's a lot of binding force in Polynesia and Polynesian history.
Yeah. I think the aloha is probably one of the binding forces. Yeah.
Ofa in Tonga.
Ofa in Tonga. And aloha in Tahiti and, Talofa in Samoa. Those are all great way to combine all the culture together. So, thank you again. Appreciate your thought and careful thinking about this.
Thanks for having me on.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear your reflection.